Welcome back to the Bell route guide. Last time we finished off in Bellheart, so we're just going to start immediately by making our way to Shellwood. Start off just by mentioning in this room there is a rosary string with the 30 rosaries that is on the direct path that you take. It's literally just this item here, so very easy quick pickup. The clean movement for this room though is going to look something like this. Dashing and gliding over that platform, dashing at the very end there, and then you don't have to pogo him there, you can just grab the ledge, but I like to pogo him, it feels nicer. Then another skip at the top here by pogoing off that enemy, and then we go through the door. If that's too difficult, not to worry, here's sort of an alternate path for those. You go up to the left here, and instead of taking that tight jump underneath, we take an easier jump over the top. And then instead of doing the enemy pogo at the top here, we're just going to go underneath and take the normal route with the normal platforms. Then we have another nice little arena, pretty quick arena, pretty easy arena. There's 100 different ways to do it. This is the way I like to do it. 3 hits on the first guy, spear on that guy, and then 2 hits and a spear for those guys. Bouncing off him to hit the spear straight away, and then again 2 hits for the stickman and 1 spear. Pretty easy arena. There's a few different setups you can use for it, that's just the one I like to use. Something that's quite important to note here is on the right hand side you have to hit this button to open the door, because we're going to be coming back through this area later on, and opening that door leaves us with a quicker path to get through instead of climbing all the way back around again. There's some pretty tight platform in here, but honestly if you take it slow at first and learn the route before going through, it's a lot easier than it looks to pogo these flowers. And then coming through to this room, we're going to do Garama Skip, which completely skips Sister Splinter. There's 2 ways of doing it. This first way is the quickest, where you start off with a taunt, then you hit the wall 10 times, drop down and hit the platform you were standing on once, hit 6 or 7 more times, and then down pogo here to bring the enemy across. This is the fastest way of doing it. It also leaves you with the most silk. An easier way of doing it though is when you get to this position, you taunt 4 times to bring him to the wall. Then you go down and you taunt 3 times. Sometimes you can do 2 here, but usually you need 3. And then taunt 4 more times against this wall here. And then he'll aggro and float up to the vine. And when he hits sort of the middle of those 2 branches, that's when you'll pogo off him. And then we're going to be pogoing and gathering some silk as we go through here, because we're going to need this silk for a heal skip in this room. This is very similar to 4th Chorus heal skip, where you're dashing into a heal, you're getting purposefully hit by this attack to drift to the ledge, which is fairly easy to do. Something worth mentioning though is there's actually an incredibly difficult skip where you don't even have to enter that room on the left. I was able to get this skip about 5 times over the course of 10 minutes, so it's not awful, but it's definitely not consistent. It's incredibly difficult. It's also, interestingly, more consistent on lower FPSs because you get more knockback, but again, look into the rules of speedrunning before you mess around with your FPS. There are rules on that. But the general idea is you get a pogo, and then you damage tank whilst hitting it upwards, and then you do 3 more damage tanks whilst doing spears. Then you gain just enough height to reach the Weaver statue. It, again, very, very difficult, so I don't recommend it. But if you do get consistent at it, it does save quite a bit of time. So, you know, maybe go for it if that's something you're interested in. Regardless of how you get to the Weaver statue, once you get here, we'll finally have our wall jump, or cling, or whatever you want to call it. We'll finally have our mantis claw. And this is going to be huge for the movement for the rest of the run. In this room, you can take this upper path, which is what I'm doing here, or you can swim underneath. I wouldn't recommend swimming underneath though, because the bug spawns are a little bit random, so you can end up getting trapped by them and damaged by them. And then in this next bit here, we're going to break these bell walls as fast as possible. Usually these bell walls take 3 hits, but if you dash from far away and just barely hit them with the edge of your dash, it will hit them twice for some reason. I imagine it's something to do with the hitboxes, but that'll hit it twice, and then you only need to hit it one more time with a regular swing, which you can do pretty much immediately after the dash attack. However, one thing to be careful of is actually going too fast in this next section, because you can be hit by the big bell guy there. Then we've just got a couple more walls to break, and we're going to take a purposeful hit here to drop down this section faster, and then we get on our way to Widow. You can actually heal before talking to Widow, so the damage tank doesn't matter too much, and instead of talking to Widow and going through her long dialogue that you usually have to do, you can just taunt, and she'll immediately start the fight. Again, Widow's one of those fights where she doesn't have many moves, so it's not too difficult, but I'll just do a quick rundown of some tips. Because Widow is quite tall, you can actually dash into her, and usually when a dash attack sort of shoots you upwards a bit, you'd have to wait to swing again. But because Widow is so tall, you can attack immediately after and get in 2 very quick hits. The next thing to mention is probably sort of when to use your spears. I mean, use them all throughout the fight, you know, they deal a lot of damage. But you'll want to specifically use them, or save one of them, I suppose, for when she does her bell attacks and she hides behind it, or she does one of her 2 ground attacks and she's moving too quickly to catch her. Coincidentally, similar to Spear, 2 of the best times to heal are also when she's doing her ground attacks, so when she's doing the dash/attack, and also when she's running across the ground and bringing the bells up. You can also scream skip Widow, which is interesting. There's 2 ways of doing it. One, just by running into her, like this, or another one is by balancing a bell that she brings down above your head, and then as she screams you drop it to hit you. I'm not going to go in depth into that, but there's a few video examples that you can go and look at in the Discord. And one final thing to mention is that during her second phase, after she's done 3 bell attacks, she's forced to do a dash attack. So you can see in this clip that's repeating here, she does 1 bell attack from the ceiling, another bell attack from the ceiling, 3rd bell attack from the ceiling. She's now forced to do a dash. So after 3 bell attacks, you know that dash is coming, and you should react accordingly. Again, I'll just show a full fight here so you can have a feel of what it'll look like, but just bear in mind, yet again, I'm not a top runner, so, you know, take my fight with a grain of salt. It's not going to be as fast as the best runners out there. After beating Widow, you'll be given Needle In and will enter another dream sequence, or Silk Realm, or whatever you want to call it. And again, this is literally just some really basic platforming, nothing too hard. Interestingly, you can activate Needle In from really far away for this door. You can use that shadow in the foreground with the spike sticking out for how close you can get. And then after completing the dream sequence, you can actually rest your hands for quite a while, because you get a forced cutscene here that you can't skip. But once Hornet finally wakes up, a lever will appear, you're going to hit it, and then you're going to wait for it to go underground, and the second it goes underground you can save and quit to skip the bell animation. Otherwise the bell animation does take quite a while, so this is similar to how with last bell animations we left and re-entered. For this one we're waiting for it to drop down and then saving and quitting to skip it. And that is officially our 4th bell out of the 5 bells we need for the bell route, so we only need one more now, which is going to be at the top of Shellwood, and that's what we're going to travel our way towards now. Now there's 2 options here when you come back into Bellheart, and that's going to be either because you're getting only 1 nail upgrade or because you're getting 2 nail upgrades. Obviously only getting the 1 nail upgrade is fastest, but if you're a new runner and you want to run with a 2nd nail upgrade because you feel like it will benefit you more, you can. So you can actually see when I enter Bellheart here, we're jumping up on that sign, going to Pinley the Nail Master, but we're actually opening and closing our inventory, because while that Bellheart title is on screen, you can't enter doors, but if you very quickly open and close your inventory, that will clear the title and it will let you enter quicker. Then you're going to ask Pliny to upgrade your needle, so you can just spam jump to do that. And then when he's finished, we're just spamming left jump and dash to get out as quickly as possible. And then we're exiting out to the left. Alternatively, if you are going for a 2nd needle upgrade, we're actually not going to go straight to Pliny. We're going to go to the Relic Seeker, again just opening and closing your inventory to get into the door quicker. Then we're going to talk to her. We're going to sell our Coral Commandment that we picked up all the way back in Moss Grotto. So obviously this money is used for a bunch of different reasons, but if you're going for the 2nd nail upgrade, you're going to sell the Coral Commandment to the Relic Seeker, then we're going to go to Pliny and upgrade our nail once, and then we're actually going to go down and unlock the Bell Beast underneath Bellheart, and that's because later on we're going to route in to grab a pale oil so we can come back to Bellheart to get our 2nd nail upgrade. As we're moving back through Shellwood on our way up to the 5th bell, we're actually going to be collecting silk along the way from enemies for a heal skip we're going to do. It doesn't matter too much where you get the silk from, as long as you're doing it efficiently. So usually you want to get maybe 3 or 4 on the enemies on the way, and then you can get 3 or 4 in the enemies in the little tower climb in a second. But once you've made your way up, we're going to enter the bell, our 5th and final bell before we get to Last Judge, entering and exiting to skip the animation, and I highly recommend you sit on this bench because our last save point is all the way at the end of Widow's fight. So if you get all the way up, you beat Last Judge, you get into Citadel, you get to the Cogwork Dancers and you die to them, you'll be set all the way from the Citadel all the way back to Bellheart when you've defeated Widow, so I'd recommend sitting on, at the very least, that bench there. But now we're going to do our first skip out of the 2 skips in Blasted Steps. This is going to be a heal skip. What you're going to do is you're going to stand about here, just before that 2nd stone at the edge of the platform, sprint, jump off. We're going to glide for a little bit. Once you've passed this point in the background at the height of your jump, then you're going to, again, dash into heal, the same as we did for the heal skip in 4th chorus, the same as we did for the heal skip in Shellwood. And this is what it looks like in one smooth motion. Just bear in mind, if you mess that jump up, you won't be able to do it again because you've used the silk to heal. Now for the 2nd skip in Blasted Steps, which is quite a bit more difficult, you're going to pogo off that pillar in the background and that enemy. If you find that too difficult, you can just take the long way around. It's not that much slower, but it just means you're going to have to wait for this enemy to move out the way. before you can get up. Either way, we're going to make our way up to this pillar here and do an incredibly difficult dash jump into that wall jump there. Just to show it in slow motion, you're going to ledge grab, dash into a jump. At the height of your jump, past the second chain, you're going to start your cloak. And then this is a little bit of variation here, but once you get to around about this height, you're going to dash to the wall. And then before you even touch the wall, so maybe 3 or 4 frames before you actually touch the wall, you're going to jump to be able to clear the edge. It's very tight to get, quite difficult, but once you do get used to it, it's very consistent, it's not too bad. Alternatively, an easy way of doing this skip is to exit to this room on the left, come back in, and then you're going to sort of get this enemy into position and then pogo off him to make that jump a lot easier. Either way, when you make your way to this lever, you're going to hit the lever, we can do a cool wall jump off the moving platform. You don't need to, you can just go around the edge to the right, but then you're going to make your way up, and to the right here is where you're going to go see the last judge, but optionally you can enter to the left here to grab a safety bench, where after buying it you can leave and re-enter to skip the bench animation just to get it a bit quicker. Just as a side note though, you will need to do a little bit of maths for your run if you're getting Sawtooth, because obviously for Sawtooth we have 180 from the Coral Commandment, and then you have the 60 from the Rosary String that we got in Farfields before the Hoka quest, which gives us exactly 240 for Sawtooth. Since from this point forward, we're only really going to be getting one more Rosary source, and that's pretty much going to be after you get Sawtooth anyway. So before you do your run, you probably want to do some maths as to what you're going to be buying, what you're not going to be buying, and the route you want to take accordingly. Making your way through this next room, there's a couple of small optimizations, some small shortcuts you can do. We can bounce off this pillar in the background to drift across, and then bounce off this guy's head to get straight to that bell. It's not that much quicker, but it is ever so slightly quicker. And then we're just going to take the rest of the route like normal to enter last judge. Otherwise the route's going to look something like this, where you just come across like normal and you do the wall jump section here. And then continue the rest of the path like normal. And if you plan on grabbing Sawtooth, yes I know I'm bringing up Sawtooth a lot, but if you plan on grabbing Sawtooth, you're going to need a Craftmetal, and this Craftmetal here, in this section, is the fastest one to grab. It's just going to be down in this pit. Across to the left, and you're just going to break this rock. And then you're going to run to last judge as normal. When you enter Last Judge's arena, usually you'll have to talk to the pilgrims by the door, but what you can actually do instead is just play your needle in. You'll need at least 2 silk to do this, but that should activate the door straight away, and you can actually activate the door from quite far away, similar to how we activated the needle in doors. It's around about on this section here, on this pattern on the floor. Now, I'm not going to say that Last Judge is an easy boss, but she is probably the first sort of skill check of the run. If you're not good at the game, she is going to show you that you're not good at the game. But once you get used to her attacks, it's actually not too bad. It's just getting used to the fact that she does, you know, double mask damage, and some of her attacks come out very, very quickly. Similar to Widow, because the Last Judge is really tall, you can get this double hit off after a dash attack very quickly. And again, similar to Widow, you'll want to be using your heals or your spears during the downtime. For Last Judge, that'll be during literally any of her spin attacks, since she's untouchable then, so just be healing or using your spears then. When she changes into phase 2, her bell does explode like this, and that can hit you, so just keep your distance with your attacks. And then similarly in phase 3, she will always do this really long-winded spin attack that has multiple fire waves. Again, that's another good time to use your spears or heal. since you know as soon as she finishes screaming she's going to go into this attack. And the last thing to probably mention is something you might already know, is when you eventually defeat her, she goes into this explosion state. This explosion can and will hit you multiple times in a row, so just keep your distance until it's finished and then go towards the door at the end. You'll have plenty of time to. And again, here's just the full fight to see what it'd look like. Yet again, I'm not a top runner. After beating Last Judge, we're just going to skip the Citadel cutscene that she has afterwards, and we're actually going to make our way into the Scales room, which is the entry to Citadel. At this point, we are officially into Act 2 and officially halfway through the run, which is very, very good news. But again, it does only get more difficult from here. I feel like that's probably a good spot to end this one though. Next one will be entering into Citadel, doing some of the Citadel movement, cogwork core and the fun parkour there, cogwork dancers, and maybe touch on Trobio. I'm not entirely sure if that would be too long though, but we'll see. Hopefully this has all helped though anyway.